Hello, welcome everyone. My name is Pat Gladura, and tonight we're going to have a little bit of a more fun, a little bit more laid back, but also informative and important conversation around cultural appropriation. So the name of this event is Boo! Bigotry, Costumes and Cultural Appropriation. I really like the name that we came up with for this one. And Akii is going to lead us in this discussion. So I'm going to pass it over to Akii.
Hello, everyone. Yes, my name is Akii. I'm with OSA, and I thought this would be a really dope idea for an event, especially with Halloween coming up. You want to make sure you have the right costume. You also want to make sure you're not offending anyone with the costume. As we see every year, somebody goes viral with the costume, and it's not viral in the good way. So, yeah, figure we should have this event and I'm super excited. And I guess with that, I'll pass it to Pat to talk about our closed captioning and honesty.
Yeah, so we have captionings for this event. So if you need captioning, there's the little CC live transcript button at the bottom. And so that's for anybody who needs captions for the event. And then could you head to the next slide? And then a brief little piece about Honesty for Ohio Education. We're a nonpartisan statewide coalition of 40 plus organizational partners. But tonight, this event is being put on by the Youth and Young Adult Coalition. So that's our student group, our student mobilizing arm. And so this is for students and with the input and help of students. And so we hope that y'all get a lot out of this. And if you enjoy tonight's presentation and workshop, that you keep engaging with our YYA things. And we have a newsletter and monthly meetings and monthly events, as well as actions throughout the year. And one thing that we're really pushing all students to do right now is, if you are of voting age, please go vote. Early voting has started in Ohio. And if you are not of voting age just quite yet, I still want to encourage you to fill out a sample ballot and go treat yourself after and get in the habit of voting early. So yeah.
Absolutely. And with that, I guess I'll tag in like WWE. So bad. Like I said, I'm Akii. I'm with the Ohio Student Association, who is also a part of the Honesty Coalition, which we love to death. We're a political home for young people in Ohio. We do statewide grassroots organizing. We do strategic campaigns and take direct action to win issues that impact us in our communities. So basically anything that affects students on campus and within the surrounding communities, we tend to, have fun and do stuff like that. We do political education, voter engagement. And like Pat said, please, please, please go out and vote if you are able to. This is a really important election coming up. And I know people are tired of hearing the words vote, vote, vote. But I promise you, voting, when you couple voting with organizing, we do get victories. So yes. And with that, we sort of get into the presentation. So cultural appropriation. Basically, the definition of cultural appropriation is the inappropriate or unacknowledged adoption of an element or elements of one culture or identity by members of another culture or identity. This can be controversial when members of a dominant culture appropriate from minority cultures. So yeah, cultural appropriation, I remember became like a really huge topic. I want to say, was it like what? 2012, 2013 was when the conversation about cultural appropriation really blew up. As someone who was on Tumblr at the time, I could not scroll without seeing something about cultural appropriation. And I myself was extremely confused by it at the time. So yeah, examples of cultural appropriation we see is when people, how do I say this? Everybody knows about Coachella, correct? And if you don't, Coachella is a dope music festival that happens in the California desert that people just love. Um, yeah, for some reason, a lot of people, when they go to Coachella, they tend to wear these headdresses, these Native American headdresses, as like, oh, yeah, cool. Everyone's like a bit confused as to why they do that. But I guess that's neither here nor there. Um, Also, you have like a lot of our celebrities at times are accused of cultural appropriation. For here, I believe we have Katy Perry dressed up, one as Cleopatra with braids and some other things I'm not really sure she actually knows the meaning behind. And then above in this get up that is definitely inspired by, I want to say, Japanese culture, I believe, that again, pretty sure she does not know the actual meaning behind. And it can be looked at as mockery or just dressing up because it's cute, which is not a good thing. Before I go on, I wanted to ask, you could just drop this in the chat. Do any of you guys have any other examples of cultural appropriation, or have you seen anybody do cultural appropriation, if that makes sense? You can drop it in chat, or you can yell out if you want to, no worries.
White musicians with locks.
Yeah, that is a big one. That is actually a big one. That is something that we see often. Yeah, oh, did not mean to go that far. Yeah, but that is something that we tend to see often. Never really understood why. And then we say Trisha. Yes, Trisha Paytas' entire career. Absolutely. Yes, anytime she throws on her little, as I call it, her black scent to rap, look at me now, I notice, I'm like, what is this? As we saw before in the slide before, there was actually somebody who I'm a big fan of, even Beyonce, has done cultural appropriation. It happens. It's something that people do. However, it seems as time goes on, people are actually learning and they are doing their best to not do it. So I want to go to this next slide. And here we have a video by Teen Vogue, which shout out to Teen Vogue because they have some excellent content. But I wanted to sort of play this video about my culture is not a costume.
My culture.
Can you guys hear?
My culture is not a costume.
My name is Yasmin Yunus. I am a first-generation Iraqi-American Muslim. I'm also a student and an activist.
It sucks to see that.
It's offensive. It's
Like a butchering of my culture. I didn't spend 23 years as a Chinese-born American to live next to this.
I'm of multiracial descent, including Taino Arawak, which is the indigenous First Nations people of the Caribbean. We're seen as just like TV characters, you know, the savage with the fringes and these boots that, you know, aren't even accurate. Even our body paint has meaning, and then, you know, you just put on this cheap paint that you probably got at the dollar store, you know, for fun because you thought it was funny. Like, my existence is just comical or hilarious to you.
I'm Kanaka Maoli, native Hawaiian. One of the things about Hawaiian culture that not a lot of people know is that historically it was illegal to practice anything that had to do with native Hawaiian culture. So my grandmother is currently in her 70s and she's finally learning how to dance hula. And she's been creating her hula skirt and her lei for weeks now. And this is nothing what it looks like. This costume is extremely hurtful, not only for myself, but for the generations that had to go through this erasure.
My name is Gianna, and I'm a 22-year-old recent graduate who's also African American. The pick in particular bothers me because our hair is stigmatized as being untidy, and it's just incredibly insensitive to the actual real struggles that African Americans have wearing their natural hair.
I identify as a first-generation Latina. Obvious examples of Chola culture might be hoop earrings, drawn-on eyebrows, or heavy lip liner. When people appropriate Chola culture in Halloween costumes, it erases the stories and narratives of people who identify with Chola culture.
Halloween would be the worst time to co-opt a person's culture because it's a day of dressing up as things that are completely out of the ordinary or very bold or very provocative. So wearing someone else's culture on that day is incredibly offensive because you're basically saying their culture is othered in a way that is almost funny, humorous, or, you know, scary.
When you see this costume, what do you think? People tend to think
terrorist, or they tend to think barbaric, or they tend to think uncultured or uncivilized, and they make fun of that. That kind of just goes with like what the media has kind of done with my identity and my background and my religion.
You get a jacket, has a dragon on the back. It's just that they think that it's cool and nothing else. They don't find the significance of it. They see it as exotic.
I feel like they're mocking me and mocking my family, my history, my attachment to these garments.
Cultural appropriation is theft.
Cultural appropriation is taking aspects of another person's culture and using them mainly completely out of context.
Members of a dominant group borrow elements from a marginalized group while actively erasing the people of that culture and diminishing the meanings of what we practice.
The majority of us know that blackface is cultural appropriation, but that is how I view and how my people in the indigenous community view this costume. We have endured a history of being pushed into the background, that even in Hawaii, where I'm from, that we're still a minority in what is and has been our homeland.
Those are aspects of our cultures and our identities that we were told were wrong, and we were told not to be proud of, and we were told to hide and to conform, and to see folks that don't have to conform, use those aspects of our identity and make it popular, make it cool, or make fun of it. That's just wrong.
So I found this video like 2 weeks ago when I was sort of trying to gear up for this, and I thought it was really important to show. Oftentimes we don't realize that dressing up as somebody else's culture, those people aren't even given the right to practice their own culture. They're not given the right to practice the different things that they have been told by their family is something they should love. However, through media, they've been told they should hate or it shouldn't be an aspect. And like they said, to dress up as someone else's culture on a day of Halloween, which is a day where you dress up as something like outworldly or something like that, kind of seems a bit like rude, if that makes sense. So yeah, do I have any questions at all before I move on? Yes, no, maybe so. Alrighty.
My culture.
Sorry. Bet. So in recent years, we have seen more people speak about their culture being used as costumes. These costumes, why a lot of people think are harmless fun, actually add to the very harmful stereotypes or dismisses the actual history and meaning behind the said cultures. That can you take down? Yes, Derek, thank you so much for sharing that, because I think that's really dope. And I love the show Reservation Dogs, but yeah, as we see a lot of people start dressing up, we try not to do that, but they dress as them and like they don't really know like the full meaning of them. So thank you so much for sharing that. And so with that, I think of culture, not costumes. The geisha girl, that is culture. They actually that is an actual culture of I believe Japanese women who are entertainment for high class Japanese men. It's a practice, they learn it, and people dress up as that, and it's not the same. Native Americans, again, we often see people dressing up as Native American, which has always been weird to me. Because like, why are you dressing up as another race? What about that? The hula girl and hula boy, as we saw in the video, so many people were not even able to dress up. Were not even able to participate in that culture. The Native people are not even allowed to participate in that culture, and their culture has been erased. And so for someone to be able to dress up as that for Halloween is a slap in the face to them. Chola culture, again, definitely something that people should think twice about. Dressing up as an Arab, which is always confusing to me because I don't understand how you can dress up as an Arab. Yet I have seen many people say that, and it's like, okay. As well as the Dia de los Muertos, I think I said that right, or Day of the Dead. Many people don't realize that, but have you guys ever heard of sugar skulls? The picture up here shows the lady's face painted as a sugar skull. That is actually symbolic to the Day of the Dead celebration. again, has culture, has meaning, and oftentimes people dress up at it because I'm like, oh, it looks cute, it looks dope. Which, don't get me wrong, when I was younger and I saw, I was like, oh wow, that looks dope. But as I learned about like what it actually meant and how it actually would actually be harmful, I was like, okay, yeah, definitely something I don't want to do or contribute to. So those are just different costumes that these are just different things that are culture and not costumes that I try to let people know about. And then next we have harmful costumes. So this is one that I don't think people really realize, but for instance, when you see someone dressed as a thug for Halloween, normally this costume tends to lean towards stereotypes and take things from African American, specifically hip hop culture. So, you know, baggy pants, like hats, tattoos, things like that. And they dress up as a thug. That's what they consider a thug. But in reality, anybody can be considered a thug. Like, I mean, I could be dressed in a pinstripe suit. Like people could be dressed in pinstripe suits and be thugs. But however, it tends to lean toward one type of thug, I noticed. The terrorist costume, again, this is weird because how do you dress up as a terrorist? Oftentimes they dress up as Osama bin Laden, or as we see here in this picture, you have someone who's dressed as a terrorist and then like a soldier. And it's like, that's weird because as we know, anyone can be a terrorist, and we've seen domestic terrorism here in America constantly. Another thing that may be harmful is the hobo costume. Reason this is harmful is because no one wants to be homeless. No one wants to be down on their luck. And so oftentimes while you might think it's a harmless costume, at the end of the day, you go home, you can take that costume off, and the next day you can go to work or you can go hang out with your friends and buy meals, do different things like that. However, it's not their costume. It's not something they can just take off and say, oh, I'm not a hobo anymore. I wish they could. I think we all wish they could, but they can't. And I don't think people realize how harmful that can be. Also, I say any costume that is representative of a harmful figure in history. So I remember in high school, some kid thought it would be cool to dress up as Hitler, and I was very confused at why you would dress up as Hitler. That is an awful person. I don't think anyone should dress up as that man. They thought it was a joke and they were laughing, and I'm like, that's not funny at all. Like, this man literally hated people and did inexcusable crimes. So yeah, people dressing up as a mental patient, again, that is harmful because there are people who actually do have mental health issues, and to dress up as someone and to dress up as somebody who's apparently in a mental hospital or whatever, that is very just rude, disrespectful, and basically making light of their situation. And then also any costume that pokes fun at a disability, specifically a physical disability. It's not funny at all. Like, many people with disabilities, specifically physical disabilities, have to gain the confidence and the courage to know that no matter what, like, they deserve like any and everything. And for them to see someone dressed up mocking the disability that they may have is just extremely disrespectful, considering they know many people will probably stare at them or laugh at them or make fun of them anyway. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, Raya, I saw that too, with people dressing their kids up as Jeffrey Dahmer, and I'm like, so Netflix, clearly your show did not help whatsoever with spreading awareness. If anything, it sort of romanticized that. But like, why would you want to dress someone up as Jeffrey Dahmer, who was a serial killer, a terrible serial killer at that, and just did horrific things to people, that those families are still suffering from what he did to this day, due to so many people creating TV shows and things about them, and even going as far as reenacting the family's reaction in courtrooms and stuff. So yeah. Right, so I'm gonna hit next. So I wanted to sort of talk about when a costume goes too far. Now, blackface is never a good idea. Like, just don't do blackface. Don't dress up in blackface. It makes no sense. Darkening your skin for a costume is just a bad taste. And also, you want to make sure you don't have a costume, or your kids or whoever don't have a costume that's mocking serious issues. So here I remember during Colin Kaepernick, he was a pretty popular costume, and I saw it done the correct way and done a horrible way. What we see here are two examples of done a horrible way. They both mock what he was doing, which was trying to take up for the Black community and shine a light on the injustices that the Black community face. You also see someone in blackface, which is like, whoa. And on top of that, you also see someone adding prosthetics to mock Kaepernick's features, which again goes into like, while you might think it's a joke, it's extremely harmful to people. Especially not only to Colin Kaepernick, who I know this is extremely harmful to him, but also to folks who look like Colin Kaepernick. It's just never the right thing to do, and I try to make sure people get that. So hopefully, we don't see too much of this year. Another example would be sort of Heidi Klum, just as the goddess Kali. While people thought this was a really dope costume, and they were like, "Oh yeah, she looks amazing." This was back in 2008. According to the Times of India, the Hindu statesman Rajan Zed stated, "Goddess Kali is highly revered in Hinduism, and she's meant to be worshipped at temples and not to be used in clubs for publicity stunts and thrown around loosely for dramatic effect." Which is accurate. Oftentimes, we do see a lot of people dress up as like certain historical figures or certain figures like within certain religions, and they do it to mock. They do it in a mocking way. And while they might think, I just want a cool costume, I thought it looked dope, you have to think about how did you just offend like a whole group of people whose whole thing, like you literally just offended a lot of people who practice Hinduism, sorry. They practice this and you make fun of that. Also, when you see people dressed as a voodoo priestess, there are plenty of people who who practice voodoo. It's an actual religion. I actually learned about it and I was shocked about its like close, how like sort of similar it is to Christianity in ways when I learned about it in the class. But then to dress up as a voodoo priestess to mock them or make fun is just not a good thing to do. Next we have Colton Haynes. I don't know if you guys know who Colton Haynes is. Colton Haynes is an actor. He became popular from Teen Wolf and also from the TV show Arrow. This is not his first time in blackface. I think this might have actually been like the third time in blackface, but he decided to dress up as Gandhi. So what did he do? He basically darkened his skin, went on blackface, and then added prosthetics to mock Gandhi's ethnic features, which again, what did you gain by this? This is somebody who did a lot. This is somebody that people follow, that people revere, and the fact that you dress up as him as a joke is just extremely disrespectful. So yeah. And then lastly, we had not lastly, but we also had Jennifer Huff, who's an actress. She dressed as Crazy Eyes and Orange is the New Black. And again, it's the blackface. And I know you probably think, well, yeah, I want to dress as like my favorite character from a TV show or for a movie, different things like that. You are able to do that without doing blackface, without mocking the character, and without changing your features so it can closely relate to the character, if that makes sense. And there are ways that has happened. So before we get into that, I want to talk about cultural appreciation. Oftentimes, cultural appropriation and appreciation sort of cultural appropriation gets thrown around a lot. So it also became, I want to say, a sort of dog whistle for, as I call people on Twitter, Stan Twitter. People will post something like, oh my God, look, cultural appropriation, so they can get retweets and likes and clicks. However, oftentimes people use the excuse that they want to appreciate the culture, but like I said, you can do that without dressing up in a costume, but actually educating yourself on a topic, on who the person was and the culture, different things like that. And sometimes coaches will invite you to take part in certain ceremonies that require you to dress in traditional garments, and they will even give you those garments to wear. Now, I learned this when I had a friend from college who recently got married. His wife is Nigerian. So they had two weddings, and one of the weddings was like a Nigerian tradition. And so everybody had to dress in like the traditional garments. People were gifted the garments to wear for that wedding only. And it was shown as a sign, not only as a sign of like respect, but to say, hey, you want to take part in this tradition, this is how you're going to have to dress. This is not meant to mock it. This is not meant to make fun, but this is so to immerse you in the actual culture so you can educate yourself and actually get a feel for what it is. Things like that, like wedding ceremonies, or even sometimes they're just like religious events or different things like that. It makes sense, and you'll know you're okay to wear those garments because most times, like I said, the person over the event will give you the traditional garment to wear and let you know, and they will tell you about the practices, what the garments mean, the different threads, different things like that. Um, Again, thinking about these costumes and sort of like how you can do a right costume. Here we have a white woman dressed as Beyonce. As we see, she did not darken her skin to be Beyonce's color, which I love. We also have a child here who is dressed as Black Panther. Is the child Black? No. But did he use blackface or anything? Absolutely not. And then here we also have a child dressed as Colin Kaepernick. He has the jersey, different things like that. I thought this was cool because I this was not mocking what Kaepernick was doing. This is actually honoring what he was doing. They didn't have a "Will Stand for Food" sign. They didn't have a child in blackface. They didn't make fun of him. You could tell they actually understood what was going on. And so these are like examples of costumes that I feel are done right and actually appreciate or whatever instead of hurting. Are there any questions at all? Comments or concerns? No. All right. So I believe this is the end of the PowerPoint. So I do want to like end the PowerPoint by sort of saying this. Oftentimes there may be about like, see a question. Yeah, they understood the assignment for sure. And oftentimes some parents have questions. I know it was a big topic about how people's kids wanted to dress up as Moana when Moana came out, or they wanted to dress up as Lilo, like Lilo from Lilo and Stitch, or different things like that. There's a difference in dressing up as a character, a specific character from a movie, as like dressing up as a Disney princess versus just taking different aspects of the culture and throwing it on as a costume. You can dress up as your favorite Disney princess. I've seen it. Actually, I remember I had a conversation with my friend about how her niece wanted to dress up as Tiana from Princess of the Frog. And I was like, why isn't she dressing up? Yeah, let her dress up as that. And she was like, her mom was afraid that she's gonna get in trouble or something. I'm like, she won't get in trouble. I was like, are y'all planning to put the child in blackface? And she goes, no. And I said, then it's good. Like, it's a Disney princess. She's able to dress up as that. Like I said, dressing up as a cartoon character or a TV show character, video game character, whatever be it, as long as you dress up as them and you're not changing your features or whatever to mimic theirs or to mock it, you're really in the clear. Yeah, that's sort of all I had to say around cultural appropriation versus cultural appreciation. Anybody else have any questions at all? I'm gonna stop sharing.
I just want to add that, yeah, like Disney characters and like children's media characters have recognizable outfits for a reason. You don't need to darken a kid's skin to make them know that they're Miles Morales. He has a like very distinct costume for a reason. It's how it works.
No, absolutely. And sometimes I remember I had a student. Sorry, I did not have a student. I am not a teacher. But I remember being at church. And my church, they don't really do Halloween. They do the harvest party. However, they allow kids to dress up. and one of the kids actually came dressed up as Superman, and he was like, "I'm Superman, I'm Superman." I was like, "I can see, I can tell," but he was like, "I'm not the Superman you think," and I'm like, "Well, what Superman are you?" And he like kept coming up to me. He would show me the comic, and it was like the Black Superman. He was like, "I'm this Superman actually," and I was like, "Okay, shout out to you." You know, you could be like, "You're not mocking him or anything." So yeah, like there are ways, like I said, you can appreciate a character, appreciate a costume, appreciate the culture by not mocking it. If you don't take anything else away from this, it's like if you have to question whether this is if it's a mocking or not, I would say just don't even wear it. Like the question, will people think I'm mocking this culture? Just don't wear the costume, or be like, hey, let's get you a new costume instead. That's always an easy way to sort of stop that argument there, because I would hate to see anyone, especially any of you, to be on my Twitter feed getting canceled or something because you wore an offensive costume.
Yeah, if at any point you think to yourself, my skin should be darker for this costume, don't wear that. Don't do that one.
Yeah. And I believe that was sort of all I had for you guys. Did you guys have any questions at all? Or I know I had a question I was going to ask what you guys are going to be for Halloween, because I have my Halloween costume picked out and I'm super excited for it. You can drop it in the chat if you want to. I'm going to be Freddy Krueger.
Ooh,
Yeah.
scary.
I'm
I'm going as
excited.
Bert from the Muppets from Sesame Street.
Ooh, okay. Love that. Love that. Exactly. Exactly. I agree, Raya. I agree. That's always a good one. Also, yeah, another thing. Oftentimes, Halloween is a time where people dress a bit more promiscuous. No issue. However, try not to be like a promiscuous Native American, like, or like what people call slutty Native American. Like, I literally saw that as a description for a costume on Fashion Nova, and I was like, "Are you guys serious? Are you serious? What?" So yeah, what are some techniques for confronting people in harmful costumes? One thing I always do, so there are two ways to do this, and I always use both ways. I always use the nice way first. And I'm like, hey, what is your costume? And they may tell me, and I'm like, great. If they're in blackface, I'm like, why did you feel the need to darken your skin for that? You know, you could have did that without darkening your skin. Or if it's just something like, even if it's not something that's obvious as dark face, I'm like, do you know like the history behind that or whatever? Um, Most times they don't. Sometimes they like try to laugh. I'm like, oh, I don't really care, or whatever. So when they do that, or like normally when I have to tap into like the mean side, I'm just like, look, yeah, so like that costume's not cool. It's very offensive, very harmful. You wouldn't like it if I dressed up as your mom for Halloween. So why would you dress up as such and such for Halloween? Um, some people are gonna get it, some people are not gonna get it. They're gonna fight tooth and nail because they believe in cancel culture, which I don't think cancel culture necessarily exists. I think it's called accountability culture. That's just me. When they just ignore it, honestly, I always tell people, don't even stress. Just like, as long as you let them like, hey, that costume's not cool. If they're still fighting you on it, just like, I said my piece, that's that on that, and go about your night, your time. Hopefully it's something that it doesn't offend you too much and it doesn't ruin your night. If it does ruin your night, understandable. If you are extremely offended, again, understandable. But I always say, don't let them see them like take your joy or happiness or ruin your night. But you can definitely let them know, like, hey, this costume is very offensive. And if you want, I can even like send you an article on why it's offensive, or I can send you like the article on what this actually means. Most times they're not going to want to listen to that. They're going to try to tune it out. But I will say, oftentimes when you do like let them know that, while they do try to play it off, they don't stop talking about it or thinking about it the entire night. They normally go around telling their friends and trying to get their friends to be mad with them. But most times their friends either don't pay attention or they're just like feeling really, really salty. Hopefully you ruin their night and they go home.
In a similar workshop I did in college, I had somebody say that like the root of what they're doing is because they think it's like funny, quote unquote. And so like it's not like totally confrontational or like will necessarily get them to stop in the moment, but just like you're really not funny is like, that's all you say and you're done, is like always a good thing, or could be a good thing, or could be a good way to do it, just because it's like, it's quick, you can get out of the situation too, but it also like gets the point across of like, what you're doing is not a joke and it's not funny. And so I always thought that was a good one.
That is a very good one. Letting people, the worst thing anyone could ever do to someone, well, not the worst thing, but one of the worst things you could ever do to someone is tell them that they're not funny, especially if it's somebody who thinks they're like a jokester or something. Because when I tell you, they're going to start doing backflips in their mind and they're going to be second guessing themselves and questioning everything. Yeah, that does a lot of damage. Any other questions at all? All righty. Well, I think my job here is done. I hope you guys have fun this Halloween.
Yeah, thank you so much, Akii. We're so glad that you were able to do this for us and put together this workshop with those great slides and the great information. And I think it's good to know around this time of year that like, even if it's something that we've heard before, it's good to have a refresher and also like an affirmation that like, if we're mad about something, if somebody is, co-opting or cultural appropriating something dear to us, that it's okay to be like mad, and that they are like, don't let them gaslight you into thinking that you're in the wrong for being mad about it or anything. So thank you so much for doing this, and we love having you around for these events. And so with that, I just want to give one final reminder to vote if y'all haven't, and if you are able to, and if you're not, fill out one of those sample ballots or drive all of your friends or get them all to the polls if they can vote, and all that stuff. And like Akii said, that voting and organizing can make a difference. So thank you so much. Have a safe and fun Halloween, and keep up with OSA and Honesty YYA as we move into the winter and the new year. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.